The order came from a general whose name will not appear in any official Iranian communique. It came quietly, through a secure channel, to the air defense installation at Bandar Abbas, 3 hours before the E-2D Advanced Hawkeye lifted off the deck of USS Abraham Lincoln. The order was precise. The objective was not to start a war. The objective was to create a window, brief, surgical, deliberate, in which the carrier strike group's eyes would go dark, its command architecture would fragment, and the strike package, already positioned across 3 separate launch platforms in the Persian Gulf, would have approximately 4 to 7 minutes to execute before American systems recovered. 4 to 7 minutes. That was all they needed. That was everything. The E-2D was not a target of opportunity. It was the target. The Hawkeye is not a combat aircraft in the conventional sense. It carries no weapons, no air-to-air capability, nothing that fires back. What it carries is something more dangerous to an adversary than any missile. It carries awareness. Its rotodome processes returns from roughly 3 million cubic miles of airspace simultaneously, feeding a continuous, real-time picture to every ship, aircraft, and command node in the strike group. It is the central nervous system. Blind the E-2D, and you don't just lose a platform, you sever the optic nerve of the entire carrier group for however long it takes backup systems and secondary assets to reorient. Iranian planners had studied this architecture for years. They understood that USS Abraham Lincoln's FA-18s, without the Hawkeye's data link feeding them targeting, reverted to their own organic sensors, capable but range limited, reaction time degraded, the seamless picture replaced by fragmented local awareness. The strike group would not be helpless, but it would be confused, and confused for even 3 minutes against a coordinated multi-axis attack is a condition from which recovery is not guaranteed. At 0248 local time, the Bandar Abbas battery went active. Not the Syad 3 yet, the search radar first, sweeping broadly, behaving as it had on hundreds of previous nights, giving American SIGINT platforms exactly what they expected to see. The E-2D was already airborne by then, climbing through 18,000 feet on its outbound track, its crew settling into the patrol routine, the mission seeming like every mission before it. The threat library showed Iranian emissions as elevated, but within normal operational parameters. It always showed that. This was the Strait of Hormuz. The threat library was always busy. What American signals intelligence did not immediately flag was the second emission source, a mobile fire control radar that Iranian operators had repositioned overnight to a coastal bluff 7 kilometers northeast of the main Bandar Abbas installation. The mobile unit had maintained strict emissions control for 11 hours, running on passive tracking only, feeding off the search radar's returns through a hardened data link. It had never transmitted. It had generated no electronic signature. It existed on American threat maps as a gap, a quiet sector, a location where no radar had been detected because no radar had been turned on. The Iranians had been patient with it for 11 hours. They turned it on at 0319:31. 16 seconds later, the E-2D's warning system went red. Inside the aircraft, the moment of recognition is physical before it is cognitive. The threat warning tone changes character, not a search tone, not acquisition, but the hard, fast chirp of a fire control radar that has found what it was looking for and is now doing mathematics around it. The electronic warfare officer's hands are on his console before the conscious identification forms. The pilot is already moving. The command commander is transmitting. All of it happens in the first 3 seconds, and none of it is fast enough to outrun what has already been set in motion. 45 seconds before impact.
The ZEROED fires. Iranian operators watch the missile on their screens with the focused calm of people executing a plan they have rehearsed many times. The missile climbs clean, the telemetry nominal, the fire control radar holding lock through the clutter. In the Tactical Operations Center at Bandar Abbas, a senior officer begins the secondary phase of the operation, transmitting a single encrypted signal to the Revolutionary Guard naval units positioned 30 nautical miles north of Abu Musa Island. The signal means the window is opening. Prepare. 3 fast attack craft carrying anti-ship missile batteries have been sitting at reduced speed and shipping traffic for 4 hours. Their emissions managed to blend with commercial vessel profiles. They are not alone. 40 nautical miles to the west, 2 Iranian submarines, Kilo-class boats acquired decades ago, maintained and modified, have been holding position at periscope depth since midnight. And from an airfield outside Shiraz, 4 Shahed 136 loitering munitions have been in the air for 90 minutes on a racetrack pattern, flying below radar horizon on a pre-programmed route that brings them to a launch basket approximately 60 nautical miles from the Lincoln's last known location at the moment the E-2D goes dark. The strike is not improvised. It is an operation with phases, triggers, and a precise dependency on what happens to one propeller-driven surveillance aircraft in the next 47 seconds. 48 seconds. Missile inbound. The call from the E-2D's passive systems arrives simultaneously with the alert from USS Gravely, the Arleigh Burke destroyer that has been watching the Bandar Abbas emissions with increasing alarm for the past 11 minutes. The Gravely's Combat Information Center immediately understands what the missile means beyond the immediate threat to the Hawkeye. The ship's tactical action officer says it aloud, 3 words, clipped and direct. This is coordinated. The assessment goes up the chain immediately, reaching 5th Fleet in Bahrain and the Lincoln's Combat Direction Center within 90 seconds. But 90 seconds is a long time. The E-2D still has 38 seconds, the Gravely still has missiles to fire, and somewhere in the dark water north and west of the carrier, platforms are already moving.
30 seconds. The E-2D drops hard. The pilot puts the nose over in a dive that loses 4,000 feet in what feels like nothing. The crew thrown against their harnesses, loose equipment clattering across the deck. The rotodome keeps spinning. The data link to the carrier strike group keeps transmitting. Even now, especially now, the Hawkeye is performing its function, pushing track data to every node in the network. And in the Lincoln's Combat Direction Center, the picture the aircraft is generating shows, for the first time, the returns from the Iranian fast attack craft to the north. Not a clean picture. The Hawkeye's geometry is changing rapidly as the aircraft descends, the radar coverage shifting, gaps appearing, but enough to see that this is not a single missile from a shore battery. This is the opening move. 25 seconds. The electronic warfare suite floods the electromagnetic spectrum. Every jamming frequency fires. Every deception protocol engages. The ZEROED-3's seeker receives false returns, the E-2D suddenly appearing to be in 3 places simultaneously, its true position buried in noise. The missile's guidance system, designed to handle some level of jamming, hesitates, a fraction of a second, a slight trajectory deviation, not enough to miss on its own, but enough to change the intercept geometry by hundreds of meters. It is not a reprieve. It is a small, hard-won modification of the geometry that the SM-2s now have to solve. 20 seconds. The Gravely fires. 2 SM-2 Block 3B missiles go out of the forward cells in a ripple launch, climbing steep and fast on a firing solution computed in real time against a target crossing at Mach 4. The closing geometry is brutal. The SM-2 and the ZEROED-3 are on converging vectors,
and the math gives the intercept missiles approximately 9 seconds from launch to detonation range. On the Gravely's bridge, the watch officer watches the tracks on the repeater display and says nothing. There is nothing to say. The mathematics are running now, and human speech has no role in them. 15 seconds, 3 tracks converging. The Lincoln's Combat Direction Center is simultaneously managing the E-2D threat and processing the emerging picture to the north. The fast attack craft have now increased speed, coming off their commercial traffic cover, their own fire control radars coming active in a cascade that lights up the threat boards across the entire task group. The Lincoln's captain is on the tactical net. The Air Wing commander is in the Combat Direction Center. FA-18s on cockpit alert are being waved to immediate launch. The deck is suddenly a place of controlled violence, aircraft moving, people moving, the ship itself beginning a turn to open launch bearing. All of this is happening in the same 15 seconds. The carrier strike group is, for these 15 seconds, fighting on 4 axes simultaneously. The missile in the air, the fast attack craft to the north, the submarine contacts the Gravely sonar is now painting, and the Shahed loitering munitions that have just appeared on radar at the edge of detection range to the west. 8 seconds. The radar picture over the strait disintegrates into noise. The SM-2 warheads detonate in proximity to the Syad-3, fragmenting steel, expanding at thousands of feet per second through the intercept point. The electromagnetic burst from 2 near-simultaneous warhead detonations momentarily washes across every radar operating in the area, military and commercial alike. A container ship's navigation display blanks and reboots. Iranian operators at Bandar Abbas lose their track on the E-2D. Their missile is gone, not returning telemetry, not responding to commands. The fire control radar sweeps the sky and finds nothing where the Hawkeye was. 5 seconds. The flash is visible for 40 miles, a point of white so intense it registers on the cockpit camera of an F-15E on combat air patrol 120 miles to the southwest. Then nothing. Zero. The E-2D disappears. Every screen in the Lincoln's Combat Direction Center that was receiving the Hawkeye's feed goes blank at the same instant. The track picture, 200-plus contacts, updated every 2 seconds, the comprehensive layered awareness that the strike group has been operating from for 3 hours, freezes, then fragments, then degrades to what each individual ship and aircraft can see from its own sensors. The seams appear immediately. The Lincoln's organic radar does not see the fast attack craft to the north at the same resolution the Hawkeye provided. The FA-18s on CAP are suddenly operating on their own APG-79 radars, with ranges that, against surface targets, are a fraction of what the Hawkeye offered. The picture the Iranian planners built their entire operation around is now exactly the picture they designed it to be.
The window is open. In the Revolutionary Guard Tactical Center, the order goes out immediately. The fast attack craft go to full speed, 35 knots, heading southwest toward the Lincoln's last plotted position, their YJ-12 and C-802 anti-ship missiles armed and in terminal homing mode. The submarines begin their approach, shallow, slow, committed. The Shahed loitering munitions, guided by the last GPS coordinates of the carrier transmitted before the blackout, adjust their racetrack pattern and begin their final run. From the Iranian perspective, the carrier strike group is now blind, disoriented, and facing simultaneous threats from 3 vectors. The plan was working. For approximately 90 seconds, it appeared to be working perfectly. What the Iranian planners had not fully weighted was the Gravely. The destroyer had not lost its own systems when the E-2D went dark. Its SPY-1D phased array had already been tracking the fast attack craft independently.
Its AN/SQS-53 sonar had one of the Kilo submarines in contact for 6 minutes, and its tactical action officer, in the moment of the E-2D's disappearance, did not hesitate. SM-2s went after the Shahed swarm to the west, 3 of the loitering munitions destroyed in quick succession, the 4th losing its GPS feed when the Gravely's electronic warfare suite began targeted jamming of its data link frequency. The ship's 5-inch gun came to bear on the nearest fast attack craft at 9,000 yards, the first rounds out while the FA-18s were still orienting. 2 Harpoon anti-ship missiles followed seconds later. The Gravely was, in that moment, doing what an Arleigh Burke is designed to do: fight alone, think fast, buy time. The Lincoln launched 6 FA-18Es in the following 4 minutes. The Air Wing, operating without the Hawkeye's comprehensive picture, used their own sensors and the data links from the Gravely and the Bunker Hill, degraded, patchy, but functional, to build enough situational awareness to engage. By the time the E-2D's backup signal appeared on the fleet's frequency at 0326, the carrier strike group had already destroyed 2 of the fast attack craft, suppressed the submarine contacts with active torpedoes, and accounted for 3 of the 4 Shahed munitions. The window the Iranians had opened lasted roughly 4 minutes. It was long enough to make the situation extraordinarily dangerous. It was not long enough. The E-2D lands at Al-Udeid before sunrise, its radome destroyed, hydraulic fluid trailing from the starboard wing, the crew alive. The aircraft will require 3 months of depot-level repair. It will fly again. Whether the pilots will think about the 47 seconds with the same clinical detachment they describe in their after-action reports is a different question, and a private one. The strategic consequences arrive with the morning news cycles and do not leave. Oil futures spike 11% on opening. The Strait of Hormuz sees its commercial traffic volume drop by 60% within 48 hours as shipping companies invoke war clauses. Lloyd's suspends Gulf underwriting indefinitely. Japan and South Korea, which collectively import more than 4 million barrels per day through the strait, begin emergency consultations with their Strategic Petroleum Reserve authorities. India, which had been cautiously balancing its relationships with both Washington and Tehran, finds that balance suddenly untenable. The attack on a U.S. naval aircraft forces a public positioning that Delhi had spent years carefully avoiding. Within the Gulf, the incident fractures the already strained calculus of regional states. Saudi Arabia and the UAE, which host American forces and depend on U.S. security guarantees, are now staring directly at the proposition that Iran is willing to attempt coordinated strikes against carrier strike groups, not simply to deter, but to blind and destroy. The Patriot batteries move north, the air defense networks go to higher readiness. Kuwait quietly asks the U.S. for additional air defense assets and receives them within 36 hours. Qatar, which hosts Al-Udeid and watched the damaged E-2D land on its runway, issues a statement demanding de-escalation while simultaneously authorizing additional basing arrangements for American ISR assets. The contradiction is not lost on anyone. It reflects the impossible position of every small state in the Gulf at this moment, dependent on American protection, terrified of Iranian retaliation, and certain that the space between those two terrors is narrowing. For Iran, the operation achieved nothing it was designed to achieve and demonstrated everything it was designed to conceal. The window opened, but the carrier did not burn. The E-2D went dark, but the strike group did not go blind. The fast attack craft were destroyed before they could close to engagement range. And the world now knows with a precision that years of ambiguous incidents had not provided exactly how far Iranian commanders are willing to go, not merely to deter American action, but to initiate it, to accept the threshold-crossing risk of firing on a U.S. naval aircraft in international airspace as the trigger for a coordinated multi-platform strike on a carrier strike group. The doctrine is now no longer theoretical. It has been attempted. It failed. But the attempt itself is now the most important data point in every regional security assessment written from this morning forward. The general, whose name will not appear in any official communique, watches the operational reports arrive and says nothing that is recorded. The window he ordered opened lasted 4 minutes. The E-2D is on the ground in Qatar. The carrier is still sailing. The strait is still there, still narrow, still carrying what remains of commercial traffic willing to test it. And somewhere in the Persian Gulf, in the dark, the next calculation is already beginning.